Hey everyone, this is Fernanda, bassist and singer for Brazilian death metal band Crypta, and you're listening to the Dan Chen Show.
Hey Fernanda, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Couldn't be any happier with the album release. The feedback's been so far amazing. The album's been out for like some days already, like 5 days or something.
5 days,
and It's been great so far. We've been getting like so many cool reviews. Fans have been messaging us talking about, like how happy they are with the album and the lyrics and everything. So I'm just enjoying the moment. We all know it's years of effort to put an album out. So when it's finally out, it's just time to rejoice.
Of course. And obviously this album, Shades of Sorrow, as you said, it's been out a few days now. And, you said you're happy with the response. Are you the sort of person that goes looking for responses? Do you go and check there's little like nuggets of information, or do you kind of keep away from it? Does it affect you either way?
I try not to keep digging, because internet is just a hostile place. It's tough, man. So you can find, it's of course a place for a lot of cool stuff, but people can be really mean and cruel, for nothing on the internet. So I avoid digging, going through pages and everything, simply because I don't want to see unnecessary stuff from haters and stuff like that. Sure. What I stick with is the feedback we get from our friends, from our label, and
they do the filtering
from
for
reviews
you.
We've been getting. Yes.
That's clever.
And then like reviews from media, we've got like lots of cool ones. And then the fans who are, like the real fans who are all out there, like commenting on our posts, and mainly our DMs. I make sure, although I get a lot of messages, I make sure here and there I take a look to, to see what the feedback is, and, exchange some love with the fans and their supportive words. So that's how I filter what I want to see. I really just look from people who actually like really, really matter, like people close to the band or label, are true fans and media and stuff like that. I don't start like scrolling on the internet looking for comments, because there's always like hostile comments out there, and I don't want to deal with that. I don't have to. So.
No point. Now I want to dig a little bit deeper on this album. How was the process, the writing and recording, and how does this album differ from, say, 2021's album Echoes of the Soul? I mean, what's changing? What's evolving? Tell me about it. Tell me how you write and record, and how this album came together.
Okay, so we started writing this album during the pandemics. So it's one of those pandemic albums. Actually, both Crypta albums are pandemic albums.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, because as soon as we released our first album, Echoes of the Soul, in June 2021, I knew there would still be some time in the pandemic. I knew we were not going to get rid of that anytime soon, at least for a year. And then also I knew the moment we were free from that, we would be like on the road and like touring extensively with no time to chill and write. So what I told the girls was that we should start writing an album right away. So it took us a couple of months till we actually started writing this album, but it was during the pandemics. And by the time we started touring in May 22, the album was nearly done. I mean, roughly. The melodies and structures and everything. And of course, solos and vocal patterns and stuff came later in between tours, but the raw material, the raw thing was right there, ready when we started touring. And, which was good because we had time for that. I am very methodic when it comes to writing. Actually, when it comes to anything in my life, but when it comes to writing music, I can be like really methodic, and I like taking my time and looking through all details and stuff like that. So it was actually one good thing that the pandemic brought for Crypta was that we were able to calmly write both our albums. And I think I'm a bit spoiled. I have no idea how we're going to write our third album. I'm very curious as to that, but hopefully.
I was just going to say,
right.
You've written 2 albums in a time of the world is hopefully never going to see that time again. You're going to go in the real world and write an album. That'll be weird for you.
Yeah. Thankfully enough, my mind is already boiling with ideas for the next album. I actually have like concept ideas, like lyrically wise, for 2 more albums. So it's fine. It's going to be written like that. Nice. And, but yeah, recording the album was great because we chose an amazing producer. He's a Brazilian guy called Rafael Lopez. And, I had worked with him like some other projects, and, he was the best. Like, he made the environment very comfortable for us. He's very chill. He knows how to talk to musicians.
Yeah.
And,
get the best out of you.
Yeah. And he was just amazing. And, so yeah, and it was a very chill process. It was complicated for me because I was trying to experiment new stuff on vocals, and it was a bit challenging, but still it was very, very nice. And, when it comes to, how different it is from the previous album, I think it's very different. I think it's a way more mature album, because I think on Echoes of the Soul, as much as I love the album, and I do love the album, I think there we were still like experimenting and trying to see what was the sound we wanted for Crypta. And then after we released it and we were able to see what were our fans' favorites, like favorite elements from our music, we were able to identify what they identify Crypta as. And then we took that, we kept that for Shades of Sorrow. And then we started writing and experimenting on top of that. So we knew the essence was there, and then we just worked from there. And I think that contributed for it to be a more mature album. Also, like the melodies in Echoes of the Soul, they were more epic. And on Shades of Sorrow, they're darker. They're more emotional. And I think this kind of adds up to the whole maturity vibe of the album. And, and yeah, it's definitely a gloomier album. And,
okay, why are you talking about the gloomy side of it? I'd like to ask you, being the lyricist, what themes are running through this album? What are you singing about? What are you talking about?
Here we go.
Yeah, so I like it. Bring it on.
This album was supposed to be a concept album, but as I said, I'm very methodic, and we wouldn't have the time for me to do it as I had planned. So it ended up being a semi-concept album, because there's a progression. There's a story that permeates the whole album, and there's a progression, and then, so I consider it a semi-concept album. And the concept that's there, the concept talks about a journey through pain, a journey through sorrow, and all the different shades of emotion we end up experiencing when navigating through dark times. And so basically that's the story. And I wanted it to be something that could both be relatable to fans, that fans could feel embraced by the album when navigating through dark times. Yeah. But I also wanted it to be something cathartic to me, because like this album, although it can be really relatable to anyone, because everyone struggles in life, and that's my main idea, but it's nearly autobiographical. It's strictly based on, like some dark periods I was going through a couple of years ago. And they're very personal lyrics. Like they're personal to this level. Before writing the album, I was like, okay, I know I want to write about this, but I was in a very good state mentally when I wrote the album already. I was like, I need to get in touch with those feelings I'm going to write about again. So I did something that my psychologist was highly against, which was revisiting my diaries from when I was struggling. Right. I would use the diaries to journal every day whenever I was feeling overwhelmed. And I revisited, and it was tough, man. It was like, sometimes I would read like 3 pages and I would close. I was like, can't believe I went through that. But it also helped me so much with all the feelings I've put in every lyrics. There's not one word there in the album that I haven't felt, you know, like, and there's literally lots of words there that they're basically just translated from my diaries from Portuguese to English. Really? So that's how personal this album is. But still, I think it offers a lot of insight and support for whoever is struggling, because I was struggling when I was going through the themes that inspired me for the album. So the album basically depicts a journey of someone through pain, and each song represents a different shade of sorrow. That's why the album's named like this, because like whenever we tend to think that sorrow and pain are one thing, but whenever you're suffering, you ended up knowing that pain has many different shades. Yeah. And that's what the album talks about. So we kick off talking about, with a song that talks about, you know, like anxiety, like post-traumatic anxiety. And then we have songs that talk about apathy, fear, inadequacy, rejection, anger, resentment, loneliness. So, and also clarity and thriving in the end. Yeah. So that's basically what the album is about. It's a emotionally heavy album.
I can only imagine how cathartic it is being in your band, singing those lyrics that are so personal to you in such a ferocious way, in such an aggressive way. It must be an incredible feeling for you.
Exactly. That's why, to me, it's very important that I write the lyrics, because I want to be able, you probably watched videos of me live, or I don't know, if you ever have the chance, you'll see that performance is something that's highly important to me. And for me to be able to deliver that on stage and sing in a ferocious way, you meant I need to feel what I'm singing. I need to relate in some deep way so I can, you know, deliver that passion on stage. So that's why it's important to me. And it's definitely cathartic, because some people get worried like, hey, but isn't it going to be like difficult to be singing about all this, you know, like heart-wrenching subjects, mainly because you've lived through that? And I was like, no. Because to me, it shows that I healed. To me, it's like a personal victory over all those feelings. And also because I know that when I'm singing that, I can be singing words of support for people who are struggling. And that motivates me a lot. So I can't wait to be singing all those songs for life. And also, here and there, like, we're not always happy. Sometimes we get back to some old patterns and feelings. So it's nice to me that sometimes I can be supported by my own lyrics. It happened to me like during the last tour. Like I remember when I started touring with Crypta, I would really cry on stage when we were playing From the Ashes, because tears of joy, because it meant so much to me, you know, like finally being back on stage after, you know, like struggling for so much during the pandemic, and From the Ashes, the lyrical theme and everything. And then on this last tour, I was really relating to Dark Night of the Soul, a song from Echoes of the Soul. And I was living every word I was singing, and the lyrics were really helping me out on some processes I was going through. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same thing with the new album. Some days it's going to be, Stronghold, that talks about being imprisoned by fear. And some other days it's going to be Lord of Ruins, that's going to be talking to me, that talks about like, still amidst chaos, I shall remain, you know, they're all supportive to me here and there. And I'm pretty sure they can embrace other people too.
I love to hear that. So I'm going to ask, it links in straight into this. Where did you discover your voice? What a voice you have, you know, was it just like one day you thought you'd try and do it and it was like, hey, I can do this? Or did you get some coaching? Was there any help, or was it just straight out?
I've always liked singing very much, but clean singing. I remember when I was listening to metal since I was a kid, because my dad is a metalhead. Right. And I remember like singing like everything. I've like, my neighbors always hated me because I was always singing at home, But with the growling thing, with the, like the screaming thing, it was something like of the moment. I never planned on being like a death metal or a thrash metal singer. It happened naturally. Like I had my previous band Nervos, and before that I had another band where we were in need of like some harsh, like screaming backing vocal. I was like, yeah, I can try, man. Like we none of the other girls wanted to. I was like, I can try. And then I really liked it. And then on Nervosa, I remember when we got the band actually going professionally, they were a drummer and a guitarist looking for a bassist and a singer. And I was a bassist who would do backing vocals in my previous bands. I was like, hey, I can try and sing until we get like a real singer. I never saw myself as a real singer. And then I just started doing whatever I thought, trying to put, like some gain on my voice.
Yeah.
And I just found out whatever felt more comfortable to me and started doing that. And then, but the girls liked it and they were like, yeah, just be our singer. I was like, fine. I like that.
Awesome.
And then with time, I was self-taught on the beginning, no, throughout my whole career, nearly. And I was just like basically learning how to sing, feeling whatever hurt me less. That's definitely not the ideal. I do not recommend that. If you want to start screaming, go for a coach. But I didn't have money for that. Never had. So I was just trying, and YouTube was not a thing for this back then, you know, like, so it was just like for funny videos and stuff like that. So I didn't have any support. I would just listen to Death and Obituary and try to, like do the same thing with my voice in a way that wouldn't hurt me. And then, and that's how I did. And then after a while, I found out that what I was using was actually a technique called fry scream. And then when I learned that, I started searching about fry scream and started, like improving my own technique. But it was not until like last year that I started taking vocal lessons to improve like my fry scream, that I actually had, like a like real improvement. And I think this can be noticed in Shades of Sorrow, because to me, I was singing the same way, but lots of people were impacted with the vocals. I was like, okay, I can understand. It's probably because I started taking lessons. So that's how I got into singing. But I really recommend, if you can afford, have a coach from day one. No, just because like now that I'm taking lessons, I have so many bad habits with my voice, and it's so hard to get rid of them. So I'm basically having to relearn how to sing. So if you can afford it, do it from day one.
I see. And how do you look after your throat? Do you have warm-up rituals before the studio sessions and shows? I bet you do now. Now you got a coach, probably not previously, maybe one belt of scream and then go on stage or whatever. How do you look after it? There are things that with time became very important to me. And when I was 13, I found out I had 2 nodes on my vocal cords. When I was like 13, 14, 15, I don't know, because I was trying to sing Nightwish. Oh, right. God. Oh, yeah. People think that it's from screaming, but it's not. It's from Nightwish, from like symphonic metal. Yeah. But, and then back then I had to start learning how to deal with that, and, like doing like warm-ups and not screaming, and, like, because I have a tendency to scream. That's a very Brazilian thing. We cannot talk without being very loud. So it was tough to me. And, but then on the road, I started to find what was actually important to me. Warming up before and after the show, it's important, but I have to be honest, not every day I do that. Shame on me. Yeah. Don't get inspired by this, please. No. I hope your coach isn't listening.
But there are some other things that really helped me. Like I've been sober for nearly 5 years now. It's going to be 5 years in September. And this truly helped. This truly helped with my voice, because I had acid reflux. Alcohol can really fuck it up. And, and also when you drink alcohol, you tend to be louder than you usually is, and tend to have like some bad habits of like, like partying overnight and stuff like that. So quitting alcohol really played a very important part on my vocal health, as well as becoming a vegan. I've been vegan for 6 years now, because back then, again, I have acid reflux, and I was struggling back then. Like, it was so bad that I developed a condition that, of course, I do not know the name in English. It's called like basically like my stomach juice or whatever that is was burning acid. My vocal cords.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it was burning. So I developed a condition on my larynx that, because like my vocal cords were getting burned from the acid juice from my stomach. So it was really tough. And then the week I started being vegan casually, because I was traveling with a vegan friend, and I was like, I'm going to be vegan with you. First weekend, no acid reflux. I was like, damn. So that really helped me. Like, like nowadays I have a very healthy way of eating. Of course, on tour, I eat trash all the time because that's touring. Yeah. But when I'm at home, I have a very balanced way of eating and nourishing myself, which really contributes for my overall health and for my throat health. Excellent. And besides that, the two most important things, these are the crucial things for me when I'm on touring. First of all, sleeping as much as I can, which is hard on tour because usually we get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So I'm always sleeping in the van, if I have 10 minutes, I'll be sleeping, because like the more you sleep, the more your voice heals. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing for me on tour. Second most important thing is I have a humidifier that I bought, like a moisturizer, something like that.
Yeah.
And where I put like saline solution, and that saves my ass, man. That's the best thing, because on top of being a singer, I'm allergic to dry air, which sucks. So whenever I'm in a city that's very dry, my vocal cords get fucked up. I have my allergy kicks in, and AC is my worst enemy because like it dries my vocal cords. It dries my. So yeah, and I'm also allergic to, this is ridiculous, to climate change. So for example, nowadays, now I sound a little bit weird because the day before yesterday was really hot here in the city I live in, and yesterday was so cold. And then just the temperature change got my allergy kicking in. So I'm having to take like anti-allergenics. I was doing the most moisturizing thing. So when on the road, this is the best thing, like moisturizing your vocal cords by inhaling like steam. Yeah. That's a game changer. That's a life-saving technique. So these are my main techniques.
Awesome. Now, away from that, do you think all female metal bands are being better represented these days compared to, say, 10 plus years ago? And what's the craziest thing someone said about the band? Anything about, I can't believe women can produce music like that, and I can't believe she's singing like that. You must hear that a lot. It must be that kind of bullshit must piss you off, or you laugh at it. I don't
know. Both. Well, I've been in this like business of, like touring professionally and playing professionally for over a decade now. And it definitely changed a lot. Yeah. Like the hate I used to get back then was way worse than I get nowadays. There's always going to be hate, but back then it was way worse. And I feel like women are better represented now because there's more women. Yeah. I always say the more women, the more women. Yeah. And there's lots of bands with women nowadays. There's lots of like all girl bands out there, and this inspired other girls, not only because it inspires musically, but also in a sense that, well, if she's living the dream, I can live the dream.
Exactly.
If that girl is here and she's feeling comfortable, this means I can feel comfortable in this environment too. Sure. So that's why I think the metal scene has been more and more welcoming to girls, because there's more of us, and the more of us, the more they'll feel inspired, and the more of us are going to be out there doing our thing.
Absolutely.
So I think it definitely got better. I think, even though metal is still a male dominated scene, not like on stage, behind the scenes, and like in the audience, I think it's getting way, way better with time. I know most of people are supportive of women in metal, but still there's always those, like handful of people that are still gonna be misogynist, still
Dicks,
gonna do like hateful comments and
Mhm.
like, hey, quit your band and go to OnlyFans and stuff like that and shit like that. But there's also some other stuff that I feel that are more subtle, you know, like for example, on every tour, there's not one tour I've ever done in my life where I haven't been prevented and blocked from getting in my own dressing room.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they think I'm the groupie or I'm the what a musician's fiance or girlfriend or whatever. And we always have to, you know, like show pictures on the internet or like get
I can't believe that.
promoter or any guy to say that no, they're the band. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. So on every tour it happens. And there's always that guy that when they come take pictures with you, they try to touch your butt or your boob and stuff like that. And
I can't believe that still goes on.
Also another thing. Yeah. And there's also stuff that are even more subtle that I notice that you don't find when guy bands are in the table. Like, which one of them is like comparing. Like, there's a lot people in metal, they compare women a lot and they try and put women against each other a lot. Like, you've always see like, who do you prefer, Daria or Floor? Right. When I quit Nervosa, I would be tagged daily in polls like, who is the best, Fernanda or Diva Satanic? I was like, dude, what the fuck? We don't even use the same technique. Like, why do you compare? And also there's room for all of us. Whereas you don't see a lot people doing that with guys bands. Like, what was the last time that you saw women being compared? And what was the last time you saw guys being compared? That's like guitarists. Like you don't compare like guys, guitarists, unless, you know, it's a guitar talk or like a technical thing. But when it comes to girls, there's always these things and like, you know, like, so, and more these subtle things they are like, you know, no one gives a fuck about how guys get on stage, like about what they're wearing. Whereas girls, like, I saw people saying that we're in Crypta use too many spikes and studs. I was like, dude, you listen to Robert Halford. He really literally have a vest full of studs, you know, like, so, but then if we use less, it's like they're trying to prove they don't need the looks to whatever. And then if we use like crop tops, well, they want to show their body, not their music. So you don't see anyone talking shit about how guys dress in metal. Whereas girls, it's all the time. We get that all the time. And of course, unsolicited dick pics and stuff like that. And people requesting us to play barefoot and stuff like that because they want to see their feet. And so, you see, there's still a lot to be fixed, but overall, this is just a minority, a very loud minority. But most of people are very supportive and very respectful towards us women. And the future is female, man, in the metal scene. We're getting more and more girls, and that's it. It's not that we want to dominate anything. We just want to live our dreams too.
Exactly. So touring wise, you know, you're always so busy. What's happening now? The album's out. What's the plan? What's the cycle? What you got planned for the next year, 18 months beyond?
Touring. We're now at home resting a little bit from all the touring because we toured a lot this year.
Yeah, I know.
But starting from September, we're going to start touring with a new album. And from September to December this year, we're going to be touring Latin America. We got to start from here. Yeah. You know, like our biggest fan base is in South America so far. So we gotta treat them a little bit. So we're going to be starting touring here. We got lots of cool stuff. We're playing like many cool festivals like Mexico Metal Fest in Mexico. And we're playing like some big festivals here in Brazil. We're opening for Ghost.
And I
there are two Brazilian dates in São Paulo. It's going to be great.
Oh, amazing.
And so lots of awesome stuff till the end of the year, playing like some countries in Latin America. And then next year, we're about to announce a tour in the US, because to support 70,000 tons of metal that we're going to play the metal cruise. Yeah. So we're touring in the US in February, like a small tour, but still.
Yeah.
And then right after that, we chill for a little bit, and then we have a headlining tour in Europe, soon to be announced too.
Nice.
And then it's the summer thing there in Europe, and then, well, basically it's just like playing and playing and playing.
Yeah, I love it.
Now that the album's gonna be out, and I can't wait to be playing the songs live. We're gonna be touring extensively, and probably somewhere next year we're gonna have to be starting and writing a new album too.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Now I've got to ask you, I mean, obviously you've just been on tour. Was it in March with Morbid Angel, right? Is that right? Is it March?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask about the horrendous event that happened in Illinois. How scary was it? And what, tell me about it. Cause it's just, I completely forgot about it until I came up with this interview. Then I was like, oh my God, I've got to ask you about that.
Yeah. That was the most traumatic experience I have ever had to been through. Like, I'm from Brazil. We don't have tornadoes here. So having a tornado hitting the venue I'm playing, that's literally something that I never thought was going to happen. And then it did, and it was fucking awful. It was terrible in so many ways. Like, we kept it light for our audience because they were worried enough with the RV situation.
Yeah.
But that are some gruesome details, man, that I'll never forget about. I do therapy. I actually have a therapy session right after this interview. That's why I need to. And that has been very helpful. So I didn't develop any like post-traumatic disorder or whatever. But there are some details you just don't forget. Like, it was all so fast. We never thought, like, we got a tornado warning 10 minutes before the tornado hit, which
were you still on stage then? You just come on stage, right? Were you still on stage?
Yeah, we finished. We got the alert on our phones the moment we got off stage, and we were like, whoa. And then our friends from Revocation were like, hey, get your valuables from your RV, like electronics and stuff, because apparently there's a tornado watch, and we should go to the dressing rooms, which were in the basement. I was like, okay, but no one was taking it too seriously because we thought it was too awful to be truth, you know?
And you got
then we went outside and
on stage, you're buzzing as it is anyway. So you still got your stage head on.
And we were still having our show clothes on, and our gear was all over the place. And then we went outside, and then the storm was there already, like craziest storm I had ever seen. And then we got our stuff. When we finished getting our stuff, and this was like 3 minutes, I don't know. We got outside of the RV. It was windy as fuck, man. Like, it's very windy because the tornado was right there. And then we got to the venue, and now everyone was more serious. Like, hey, go to the dressing room, girl, go to the dressing room. And then I went downstairs. I saw my drummer was not there. And then I went upstairs, and then I literally saw the guys like throwing her from outside to inside the venue because the tornado was there. I could see the cloudy thing right there. And it took like 10 people to close the door. And then we rushed downstairs, and then we could only, like, lights were out. I'll never forget that. Alarm sounding on. I'll never forget that. And then the whole building shaking. And I remember like holding my drummer and thinking, okay, it's been a good life. Like, I know it's going to end here. Like, I knew because like the whole building was shaking. You could see like the dust from the bricks and everything. I was like, man, this is going to fall in my head, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. We were desperate, screaming. And so I really thought I was going to die. And then after that, lights were on again. Everything was quiet. We didn't know how to proceed. And then we started hearing fans screaming upstairs, like under the debris. It was like, whoo! And I'll never forget that. That's something you do not forget. And then we were like, something's messed up, man. We didn't know at that time that the roof had collapsed on fans. We only thought it was the building shaking from the tornado. And then we saw a fan covered in blood climbing the stairs down to the dressing room, and then he passed out. And then we thought, okay, something bad happened. And then another girl with like an open wound on her head, like all covered in blood, came down screaming. And I was like, oh my God. And then she was like, I need to call my mom. And then I gave her my phone. And then I got my phone back, and it was like fully covered in blood. And I'll never forget that. And then
how do you recover from that? How do you recover from that? From like
lots of therapy, man.
How many gigs were left on the tour after that?
Half of it.
And
It was halfway through.
So when was the next gig after that tragedy?
It was, I can't remember where it was.
Was it the next night or two nights later?
We were supposed to play a gig in Illinois the next night, but it was postponed to Wednesday. I remember that. It was supposed to be Sunday. It wasn't Wednesday. And then we played somewhere else. I remember the venue. I remember the place, but I can't remember the name of the city. And then I remember going to that show, the Illinois show. We were back in Illinois, which was traumatic enough because we truly needed to drive through the storm and run from another tornado warning. And then whoever had the tickets for the Apollo Theater could go to this concert. So there were a lot of injured fans that night.
Wow.
And then it was so hard to play and seeing people on casts and stuff like that. But still, there were also like fans. There was a fan that approached me and he said, "You saved my life." And I was like, "How come, man?" He was like, "Because I was front row and the roof collapsed like on the first like 6 rows on fans." And he was like, "I was front row." And I remember specifically that you said, and I always say that on shows, "Hey, don't forget to pop up at the merch stand after the show. We'll be there to talk to you guys." I always do that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "First thing I did after the show was going to the merch tent." And then I saw from the merch tent, the roof collapsed.
Oh my word.
So he was like, "You saved my life." I was like,
wow.
So it was traumatic. Like, but we were all wondering if either we should keep the tour going or cancel it or what should we do? And then, but that was such a cool tour. And I know, you know, like everyone wanted us to keep going. And I know financially it would be a disaster for all the bands if the tour got canceled. And also like, I was telling Trey, he was like, "Maybe I should cancel the tour." I was like, "Trey, this has been such a cool tour. Let us not have this tragic event as the last memory of such a nice tour.
Of course.
Let's keep on going." And I'm sure like the fan that died, and that is the hardest part for me to understand that a person died while watching my concert. That was awful. I really needed a lot of therapy to deal with that. And I was telling Trey, I was like, that was a diehard fan. And I know that because he was the only person that night that had time to buy Crypta merch, because he got in the venue and he got in there and he was like, "I want a t-shirt because I want to support the girls even before their set." And then our merch guy passed by the guy when he was dead and he still had his Crypta shirt on him, you know, like, so that was a metalhead. That was a very supportive guy. And I know that wherever he is, he wanted us all to move on. So
thanks.
That was very important.
Thanks for sharing that story and those.
Not a problem. It's always cathartic to me. It helps me. The more I talk about it, the more I process it. And so it's not a problem, really.
So happier things, you know, tell me, what is the metal scene like in Brazil? In a nutshell, are there a lot of shows? Does everyone know each other? And how influential on the Brazilian scene, obviously, is Sepultura, and friend of the show, Max Cavalera as well. What a great guy. Yeah.
Sepultura is the band, to me personally, but I think for most of Brazilian metalheads, they are the band that showed us that it is possible to be all fucked up, you know, like, and live in a third world country with so many difficulties and still live the dream. That's the most important message that Sepultura, I think, carries to us. They're a huge influence musically, but also they were the band that showed us that it is possible being Brazilian and live your dream. And that's the main message that got me. And they were my main influence on that. I still look up at them so much. Yeah. And the metal scene here is phenomenal, man. I think it's one of the best in the whole world. Not to brag. I don't want to brag, but we're amazing. Like the Latin American metal scene is it's a special event on its own. Yeah. Because there's no more passionate fans in the whole world than in Latin America. We are the most passionate. Absolutely. Just because we're very passionate people. Yeah. Overall, you know, like in a general way. So of course. But also, like, we have this passion for the thing because we know how hard it is and how much metal helped us endure like the difficulties of living in third world countries. So the metal scene is amazing here. We have so many good bands, and we are warriors here, man, because it's so hard to buy an instrument. Our currencies are all fucked up. So to buy a guitar, like it's like 5 months of work, you know, like a year or years of work or a decade of work. So we value having a band so much. And that's why we have so many good bands and so many aggressive bands. I think it all translates in our music. But yeah, it's the most passionate metal scene you'll find out there, along with our Latin American brothers.
I love it. Now I've got one last question. It's not an easy one to answer, right? What one Crypta track sums the band up the best? Just one track. Well,
okay, I'll say my favorite.
The way I say it is if someone doesn't know anything about you or an alien came down, you have to tell them who you are. What track do you play them?
Perfect. That was the perfect question, the way you put it, because now I have the perfect answer. The song would be The Outsider, which is from Shades of Sorrow, because first of all, it's my favorite track in the album. Second, I think it represents the way Crypta sounds very much. Yeah. And it's my favorite lyrics in the album and my favorite vocal patterns in the album. This song, like all the songs in the album, they talk about different shades of pain and sorrow. Some of them I relate a lot. Some of them nowadays, like, they're a little bit more emotionally distant for me. But the only song and subject that are always there in the back of my head is the theme for The Outsider, which is a song that talks about inadequacy, that talks about feeling so inadequate that sometimes you feel rejected. And that's how I feel in this world. I do not fit, man, in this society. Yeah. I feel like an alien. I feel like an outsider. I feel like I don't belong here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm more comfortable with this fact. Sometimes it crushes my soul, but it's always there. I never not feel like I feel in The Outsider. So I think that's a good track if you want to know about Crypta and about myself.
I'm going to play that next. Fernanda, thanks so much for joining me. Awesome. It's been an awesome chat. I really appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. I could be here talking for 4 hours, but I don't want to bore you or your listeners to death. Cool. So thanks for having me. It's been a fun chat. Thanks for being the bridge between us and the fans. It truly means a lot. Thanks for your work. And hopefully we chat soon some other time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.